Thank you, John. That is absolutely, and June knows that is one of my most favourite versions of that song in the whole wide world. I think Mom's been playing that tune in our home for many years, and the words that John wrote, the way it's been put together, is one of the most beautiful ways that can be put through. It's just very heartwarming, and I love that song. So it's really interesting listening to that Speaking of Life today. I had an experience. My sister sent me a little app. It's called Pray As You Go, and it gives daily prayers for you. So you sit and listen to a verse being read, and it's an audio, and you sit and you relax and listen to it. And one of the things that they invite you to do is do an imagination exercise. So you immerse yourself in one of the stories that they are reading, and they happen to be reading the story of Mary and Martha. And I sat down and I did that imagination exercise, and I pictured myself as Martha. So Jesus was sitting with Mary at the table, and I pictured myself as Martha. But what was really interesting to me was that at the stage where I was saying, God, isn't she, Jesus, get her to come and help me, Jesus laughed at me, and he pulled out the chair at the table that they were sitting at, and he patted it and he said, come join us. And I just thought it was a really beautiful moment. Instead of the guilt that I was carrying around about being a Martha, Jesus was going, come, you silly girl, come, sit down, let's just enjoy that. And so today I'd like to do a very similar imagination exercise for us all. And I'd like to take us back to participate in a story that is in the Bible that I have kind of delved into. And I just love the outlying themes that lift us up. So let's have a look if I can do this. You're invited on a journey with Ruth, Naomi, and Boaz today. Okay? So I'm going to take the story to a very different story, and I'm going to picture it as if it was happening in Australia. So this is the Australian version of what is happening to Ruth, Naomi, and Boaz. So you can put your Bibles away. I've put it all up here. I have taken it from the easy read version, and so please participate and picture yourself in the story. So a long time ago, during the time that the National Party ruled in Australia, there was a famine in the land, and a man named Eli left the town of Bellevue in Perth, in Midland, just at the bottom of the hills there, in Bellevue. Now, the reason I've chosen Bellevue is because it's the same letter as Bethlehem. So we are looking at the Bethlehem story as well. Now, Bethlehem, I have learnt recently, means the house of bread. So for a famine to be happening in the house of bread was very strange for these people. So Eli has left the town of Bellevue. He, his wife, and 2 sons moved to the town of Meriden. Okay? The country of Moab. The man's wife was named Naomi, and his 2 sons were named Mahlon and Chilion. They were from the Ellis family in Bellevue. The family travelled to the country town of Meriden, and they stayed there. So what I'd like to show you here is this first map here is the road that we would normally take if you decided to walk. I plugged it into Google Maps. So if you were going to walk from Bellevue to Meriden, which is approximately 236 k's. It would take you about 2 days because it's quite flat, so 48 hours or so of solid walking. On that side there, just so you know, I've done a similar map of Bethlehem to Moab. So in those days, it's actually a really rocky, hilly place, and it would have taken them about 7 to 10 days to get where they were going. But these distances are probably the most similar that I could get. So a couple of days walk. So if you were walking today, it would take you 65 hours to get from Bethlehem to Rabbah, where approximately Moab is, on that one there. So this is where they decided to walk, from Midland to Meriden. Okay. Later, when they got there, Naomi's husband Eli died. So only Naomi and her 2 sons were left. Her sons married people from Meriden. Now, Midland and Meriden, Bethlehem and Moab, did not get on. They were very different people. They had different cultures. They were not at peace with each other at that time. But they went there because there was bread in Meriden. There was bread in Meriden. That was the farming country. Her sons married women from the country of Moab. One wife's name was Oprah, and the other's name was Ruth. They lived in Meriden for about 10 years. Then Mahlon and Chilion also died. So Naomi was left alone without her husband or her 2 sons. When Naomi was in the town of Meriden, she heard that God had helped his people. He had given food to the people in Perth. So Naomi decided to leave Meriden and go back home to Bellevue. Her daughters-in-law also decided to go with her. They left the place where they had been living and started walking back to the land of Perth. Then Naomi told her daughter-in-law, "Each of you should go back home to your mums. You have been very kind to me and my sons, who are now dead. So I pray that God will be with you just and kind to you. I pray that God will help each of you find your husband and a good home." Naomi kissed her daughter-in-law, and they all started crying. Then the daughter said to them, "But we want to come with you and go to your family." So again, they walked all the way back from Meriden to Bellevue. But Naomi said, "No, girls, go back to your own home. Why should you go with me? I can't have any more sons to be your husbands. Go back home. I am too old to have a new husband. Even if I thought I could be married again, I could not help you. If I became pregnant tonight and had 2 sons, you would have to wait until they grew to become men before you could marry them. I cannot make you wait that long for husbands. That would make me very sad. I'm already sad enough. God has done many things to me." So again they cried very much. Then Oprah kissed Naomi goodbye, and Ruth hugged her and stayed. Naomi said, "Look, Oprah has gone back to her home people and her own gods. You should do the same." But Ruth said, "Don't force me to leave you. Don't force me to go back to my own people. Let me go with you. Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you sleep, I will sleep. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God. Where you die, I will die, and that's where I will be buried. I ask the Lord to punish me if I don't keep this promise. Only death will separate us. It's a beautiful story of friendship and connection and this beautiful relationship that the two of them had. Naomi saw that Ruth wanted very much to go with her, so Naomi stopped arguing with her. Naomi and Ruth travelled until they came to Bellevue. When the two women walked down the main street of Bellevue, all the people were very excited. They said, "Is this Naomi?" Remember, 10 years had passed, so it was very exciting to have her back. But Naomi told the people, "Don't call me Naomi, call me Mara." Sorry. Use this name because God All-Powerful has made my life very sad. I had everything I wanted when I left, but now the Lord brings me home with nothing. The Lord has made me sad, so why should you call me happy? God All-Powerful has given much trouble to me. So Naomi and her daughter-in-law Ruth came back from Meriden. Then these two women came to Bellevue at the beginning of the barley harvest. Things were starting to look up. There was a rich man named Boaz in Bellevue. He was one of Naomi's close relatives from Eli's family. One day, Ruth from Meriden said to Naomi, "I think I'll go to the farms. Maybe I can find someone who will be kind to me and let me gather the grain they leave in the field." Naomi said, "Fine, love, go ahead." What's happened in those days was it was a rule for the farmers to leave a corner of their field so that people who were poor could go and use that to get their wheat. So it was actually a law that they had to do, which was a really beautiful process in those days. So Ruth went to the field. She followed the workers who were cutting the grain and gathered the grain that was left. It happened that part of the field belonged to Boaz, the man from Eli's family. Later, Boaz came to the farm in Bellevue and greeted his farmhands. He said, "God be with you." And the workers answered, "And may God bless you." Then Boaz spoke to his farm manager and asked, "Who's the new girl?" The servant answered, "She's the country girl who came with Naomi from Meriden. She came early this morning and asked me if she could follow the workers and gather the grain that was left on the ground. She rested only a short time in the shed." Then Boaz said to Ruth, "G'day, miss. Stay here in my field to gather grain for yourself. There's no need for you to go to any other field. Continue following behind the ladies. Watch to see which fields they go into to cut the grain and follow them. I have warned the young men not to bother you. When you are thirsty, go and drink from the same water jug my men drink from." Then Ruth bowed very low to the ground. She said, "I'm a country girl, so I'm surprised you even noticed me." Boaz answered her, "I know all about the help you have given to your mother-in-law Naomi. I know you helped her even after your husband died, and I know that you left your father and mother and your own home and came here to the city. You did not know anyone from the city, but you came here with Naomi. God will reward you for all the good things you have done. The Lord God of Israel will pay you in full. You have come to him for safety, and he will protect you." Then Ruth said, "I hope I can continue to please you, sir. you are very kind. I'm only a farmhand and not even one of your own crew, but you have said kind words to me and made me feel much better." At tea time, Boaz told Ruth, "Come and eat some of our bread. Here, try the bread in our balsamic vinegar and olive oil." So Ruth sat down with the workers. Boaz gave her some roasted grain. Ruth ate until she was full, and there was some food left. Then Ruth got up and went back to work. Then Boaz told his workers, "Let Ruth gather even around the piles of grain. Don't stop her, and make her work easier by dropping some full heads of grain for her. Let her gather that grain. Don't tell her to stop." Ruth worked in the fields until evening. Then she separated the grain from the chaff. There was about 13 kilos of barley. So what I'd like to do is show you this beautiful picture here. This is my beautiful little raccoon onesie boy today, who is looking very cosy. He went on a scout camp about a year ago, actually. He went on a scout camp, and it was a hike on the Bibbulmun track. It was a 2-night hike, and we had to pack a backpack which was a third of his body weight. So that was the weight that they recommended, and that was 13 kilos. Now, Ronan found that actually really heavy while he was walking. So 13 kilos maybe for me or for Stephen or for anybody, it probably wouldn't feel that much. But, when you're, 50 kilos or something like that, having the 13 kilo, it's pretty heavy. So this is actually a really generous amount of barley that she had collected and she was carrying home. So 13 kilos, and I can imagine that would have actually gone quite far in whatever they were doing. So it was a beautiful amount of grain that she had collected. Let's carry on. Ruth carried the grain into town to show her mother-in-law what she had gathered. She also gave the food that was left over from lunch. Her mother-in-law asked her, "Where did you gather this grain? Where did you work? Bless the man that noticed you." Then Ruth told her who she had worked with. She said, "The man I worked with today is a man named Boaz." Naomi told her daughter-in-law, "God bless him. He has continued to show his kindness to the living as well as the dead." Then Naomi told her daughter-in-law, "Boaz is one of your relatives. He is one of our protectors." Then Ruth said, "Boaz also told me to come back and continue working. He said, I should work closely with his female crew until the harvest is finished." Then Naomi said to her daughter-in-law Ruth, "It is good for you to continue working with the female crew. If you work in another field, some men might hurt you." So Ruth continued working closely with the female crew of Boaz. She gathered grain until the barley harvest was finished. She also worked there through the end of the wheat harvest. Ruth continued living with her mother-in-law, Naomi. Then Naomi, Ruth's mother-in-law, said to her, "Look, love, maybe I should find you a hubby and a good home for you. That would be good for you. Boaz is our close relative. You worked with his farmhands. Tonight, he will be working late on the threshing floor. Go have a bath and get dressed and put on a nice dress and go down to the threshing floor. But don't let Boaz see you until he has finished tea. After he eats, he will lie down to rest. Watch him so that you will know where he lies. Go there and lift the cover off his feet. Then lie down there with Boaz, and he will tell you what you should do next, what you should do about marriage." Then Ruth said, "I will do whatever you say." So Ruth went down to the threshing floor and did everything that her mother-in-law told her to do. After eating and drinking, Boaz was very satisfied, and he laid down near a pile of grain. Then Ruth went to him quietly and lifted the cover from his feet and lay down by his feet. About midnight, Boaz rolled over in his sleep and woke up. He was very surprised. There was a woman lying near his feet. Boaz said, "Truth, who are you?" She said, "I'm Ruth, the country girl. Please spread your doona over me, because you are my protector." Then Boaz said, "May the Lord bless you, young woman. You have been very kind to me. Your kindness to me has been greater than the kindness you showed to Naomi in the beginning. You could have looked for a younger man to marry, rich or poor, but you did not. Now, young woman, don't be afraid. I will do what you ask. All the people in our town know that you are a very good woman, and it's true that I am a close relative, but there is a man who is a closer relative to you than I am. Stay here tonight. In the morning, we will see if he will help you. If he decides to help you, that's fine. If he refuses to help, I promise, as surely as the Lord lives, I will marry you and buy back Eli's land for you. So lie here until morning." So Ruth lay near Boaz's feet until morning. She got up while it was still dark, before it was light enough for people to recognize each other. Boaz said to her, "We'll keep this a secret. You came to me last night." Then he said, "Bring me your coat. Now hold it open." So Ruth held her coat open, and Boaz measured some more barley as a gift to Naomi, her mother-in-law. Boaz was wrapped in Ruth's coat and put it on her back. Then he went into Midland town centre. Ruth went to the home of her mother-in-law, Naomi. Naomi went to the door and said, "Who's there?" Naomi went in telling Naomi everything that Boaz did for her. She said, "Boaz gave me this barley as a gift for you. He said that I must not go home without bringing a gift for you." Naomi said, "Daughter, be patient until we hear what happens. Boaz will not rest until he is finished and doing what he should do. We will know what has happened before the day has ended." So Boaz went to the Midland Council buildings. He sat there until a close relative he had told Ruth about passed Boaz and said, "Hey mate, come take a seat." Boaz also gathered the councillors from Midland. He told them all, "Take a seat," and so they sat down. Then Boaz spoke to Naomi's close relative and said, "Naomi's back from Meriden. She wants to sell the land that belongs to our relative Eli. I decided to tell you this in front of all these councillors living here and in front of these witnesses. If you want to pay the widow for the land and keep it in the family, then pay her for it. If you don't want to buy the land, tell me, because I am the next one in the family who has the right to buy it. If you don't buy the land from her, I will." Naomi's closest relative said, "No worries, I'll buy the land from you." Then Boaz said, "If you buy the land from her, you must also marry the dead man's wife, Ruth, the Meriden woman. Then their first child will get the land and it will stay in the dead man's family." The close relatives answered, "Nah, mate, then I can't buy the land. If I do, I might lose my own land, so I can't do it. You can buy the land." Then he gave something to Boaz to show that he was serious. During that time in in Israel, when people bought property, one person took off a thong and gave it to the other person. This was like signing an agreement. So when the close relative said to Boaz, "You buy the land," he took off his thong and gave it to Boaz. Now we can all imagine kind of walking around the town like this. People would know what you've done. You've signed a commitment or a comment or something like that. Then Boaz said to the elders and all the people, "You are witnesses today that I am buying from Naomi everything that belonged to Eli, Kilian, and Mahlon. I also take Ruth to be my wife. Then the dead man's property will continue to belong to his family, and he will always be remembered by his family and the people in his hometown. You are all witnesses of what I am doing today." So the elders and the people in the council said, "We are witnesses to all of this, and may God bless this woman who is coming into your home, to be like Rach and Leah. They are the ones who had many children to make the people of Australia strong. And may you become powerful in the Ellis family and famous in Bellevue. The Lord bless you with many children through Ruth. May your family become great like Banjo Patterson's family." So Boaz married Ruth. God allowed Ruth to become pregnant, and she had a son. The woman there said to Naomi, "Praise the Lord who gave you this child. May he become famous in WA. He will make you alive again and care for you in your old age. Your daughter-in-law made it happen because she bore this child for you. She loves you and is better than you than even 7 sons." Naomi took the boy, held him in her arms, and cared for him. The neighbours gave the boy his name. These women said, "Naomi has a son now." They called him Obed, Obi for short. Obed was the father of Jesse, and Jesse was the father of David. A few things that continue on from that beautiful story. Obed was the son of Boaz and Ruth, the father of Jesse, and the grandfather of David. He is named as one of Jesus' ancestors in the genealogies recorded in the Gospel of Matthew and Luke. Boaz means in strength or by strength. The name Ruth is a Hebrew name meaning companion, friend, or vision of beauty. Naomi is from the Hebrew name meaning pleasantness. And Obed means serving or worshipping. So those beautiful names that kind of come through the story, and as you sit in there, it's just really special. So my question is, what can we glean from this story? And what I find is that it is more than a story of friendship of 2 women following each other and moving from town to famine to food and things like that. And so I'd like to share some of the things that really stand out to me in this story. What I find so interesting is the way that Boaz has interacted with the family, and I'd like to share some of this with you today. He's a very encouraging man, and I just think the heart of God is showed through the story. So we have some encouragement from the owner of the land. Boaz said, "I know you helped her even after your husband died." So Boaz shows sympathy. When we look at this, we go, God's heart is in there. God says, "I know you helped her even after your husband died," which is beautiful. So much encouragement for us because God shows sympathy. Boaz said, "You did not know anyone here, but you came here with Naomi." Boaz showed concern. God also shows concern when he says, "You did not know anyone here, but you came here. You did not know anyone from Australia, but you came to Australia. You did not know anyone from Perth, but you came to Perth. You did not know anyone from Sri Lanka, but you came to Australia." So God shows concern. She ate until she was full, and there was some food left. Boaz shows generosity. And again, she ate until she was full and there was some left. How many times do we see this in the New Testament? There was always something left. There was always plenty. God shows his generosity. "Come and eat our bread. Here, dip your bread in our vinegar." Boaz showed inclusion. "Come and eat my bread. Here, try it this way." Shows God showing inclusion. "The Lord will repay you for all the good things you have done." Boaz showed blessing. God shows blessing when he promises, "The Lord will repay you for all the good things you have done." "You have come to him for protection, and he will keep you safe." Boaz showed protection. The heart of God shows protection. "You have come to him, you have come to me for protection, and I will keep you safe." "I know you have left your father and mother and come here to the country." Boaz shows awareness. "I know you have left your father and mother and come here to this country." God shows awareness of where we are all the time and what we have come from. "Listen, my daughter, from now on, don't go and glean in any other field. Stay here, right in this one." Boaz showed community and welcome. God shows community and welcome. "Listen, my daughter, my son, from now on, don't go glean in any other field. Stay right here with me." He has continued to show kindness to the living and the dead. Boaz showed remembrance. He showed mercy, grace, remembrance. God shows remembrance to the living and the dead. He knows how he serves us through his heart and his love for us, even when we have suffered loss. "Make her work easier by dropping some full heads of grain. Don't let her stop." Boaz showed blessing. "Make her work easier by dropping some full heads of grain. Don't let her stop." It's God showing blessing. "Let her gather even around the piles of grain. Don't stop her." Boaz shows providence. He is a provider. "Let her gather even around the piles of grain. Don't stop her." God shows providence. He is our provider. This is the story of grace. I loved the definition of grace that Peter introduced a couple of months ago, was the empowering presence of God. And I love the way that this story shows love being shared upward to God, inward to the people around each of them, but outward as well to the community. GCI has a upward, inward, outward kind of framework that they encourage and, encourage us to live in, to move in, to participate in. And this one here we have the upward. In our thoughts, we worship and praise of God, belief in his promises to do good for us. In our upward emotions, love, joy and adoration shown to God with all our heart. Our upward words in prayer, Bible study and meditation. Our upward actions, working by dedicating time, work and money. We then have an inward focus, congregationally as well as internally with our own hearts in our own time. Our thoughts, our inward thoughts and our inward thoughts to each other in our congregations, positive, pure, understanding our identity as members of the body of Christ. Our inward emotions, brotherly love and enjoying companionship. Our inward words, edifying, comforting and exhorting each other. Our inward actions, service to one another, doing ministries within the church. It's a beautiful thing to be part of this congregation because it is just so much there with the love that we have and the serving that we have with each other. The next step is taking it outward into community, sharing those grace, the thoughts. So the thoughts and outward thought, knowing God's love for sinners, understanding our role in the world as light and salt. Our outward emotions, patience, love, compassion and desire for others to be blessed. Words, outward words, positive, hopeful and with faith in Christ. Outward actions, serving in church service projects and helping individually as Christian neighbours. It's a beautiful opportunity for us to participate in the work that God is doing. And I think that this story just shows so much of this upward, inward, outward form of action and participation. So how can we share God outwardly? Again, I'm taking the same stories. Show sympathy. I know you helped her even after your brother died, your sister died, your mother died, your husband died. Simple words that we can share with each other. Show concern. You didn't know anyone, but you came here. Just being aware and showing that concern to people that we don't know. Anybody new that we meet along the street, entering those conversations. Show generosity. Eat until you are full. There will be plenty left. How many times have we seen that? Showing inclusion. Come, try this. This is how we eat it, or this is how we do it here. Very much the immigrant story. I listen a lot to Sunshine FM, and they have a gentleman on there. He talks about creating communities and how we can reach out to immigrants, people from a different land, and have these conversations with them, actually getting to know the immigrants as, you know, they come into our paths. Show blessing. God will repay you for all the good things that you have done. Show protection. He and we will keep you safe. You are safe here. Showing awareness. I know you left Africa and you came here. Show community. From now on, come here, join us. We'd love to have you join us. Show remembrance. He has continued to show kindness to all. And share providence, sharing providence, sharing what we have been provided with. Here, have some more. I have plenty. The story of Ruth is more than a story of a loving friendship between two women. It is alive in 2019. It's an embrace It's an invitation to participate. It's a story of how God is drawing people to himself, including them and loving them, even in 2019. So let's go out and participate in the beauty of this story and see what God is already doing in your Australian suburb.